Vitória, Espírito Santo, May 18th, 1973. Araceli is 8 years old. She leaves school early because the bus schedule is a mess. She's wearing her school uniform, carrying her books, looking for a ride home. She never makes it. 6 days later, behind a hospital in the heart of the city, the search ends. But this wasn't an ordinary crime scene. It was an industrial nightmare. Her body had been bathed in acid, disfigured beyond recognition in a desperate, cowardly attempt to erase a person. The acid burned her skin, but it couldn't burn the truth away. Araceli had been kidnapped, drugged, and violated by the Untouchables of the city. While the military dictatorship preached order and progress, a little girl was being destroyed in a basement by the children of the elite, and the silence that followed was louder than any scream. Entra aí. O banco tá quente, eu sei. O sol de Vitória não perdoa, mas nada queima tanto quanto o que aconteceu naquela escadaria em 73. Você já ouviu falar de crimes perfeitos? Pois é, o caso Araceli não foi perfeito pelo plano, mas pela proteção. Estamos indo para uma época onde ter o sobrenome certo valia mais do que o si, onde a polícia não batia na porta dos ricos, ela pedia licença para entrar. O taxímetro tá rodando, mas a conta dessa história, essa o Brasil ainda não terminou de pagar. Vamos seguir o caminho daquela menina, o caminho que termina em silêncio e impunidade. In Egypt's Sen, Vitória was a growing city, but it was still ruled by a few surnames. Manfredo, Micheline, Hillel. The sons of these families, Dante Paulo and Helder, were the princes of the local high society. They had the fastest cars, the best drugs, and the absolute certainty that they were above the law. Araceli was the daughter of immigrants. She was beautiful, innocent, and invisible to the system. The setting was a city gripped by the tension of the lead years Anos de Chumbo, a place where dissent was crushed, and where the powerful protected their own to maintain the moral fabric of the state. The rumor mill started immediately. The girl had been seen at the Garden of Evil, a nickname for a spot where the elite youth threw parties that the police ignored. She was a guest who never invited, a toy for board, entitled men who thought their parents' bank accounts could buy a human soul. The air in Vitória that week wasn't just humid, it was toxic. They didn't just kill her, they tried to dissolve her existence. But they forgot one thing. Some ghosts refuse to be silent, especially the ones that wear school uniforms. Araceli disappeared into the void between the school and the bus stop, but she wasn't taken by a stranger in a dark van. The theory that the city whispered on, that the court records tried to hide, was that she was taken to the Dante building in downtown Vitória, a luxurious place frequented by those who dictated the rules. There, the horror lasted for days. They say they filled her with drugs, including LSD, so she wouldn't scream, so she wouldn't know where she was. An 8-year-old child used as an experiment of pleasure and cruelty by young people who had never heard the word no. When Araceli's little heart stopped, the panic wasn't out of remorse, it was out of convenience. They needed her to disappear. They took the body to the back of the children's hospital. They used acid to disfigure her face, to burn her fingerprints, to turn a girl into a stain on history. What they found 6 days later was no longer a child. It was proof of what absolute privilege is capable of doing. The investigation wasn't a search for the truth. It was a cleanup job. The 1973 police knew exactly who to look for, but the clues vanished like smoke. The security guard who saw the Playboy's car, he turned up dead, suicided with poison, before giving his final statement. The evidence collected at the crime scene, contaminated, lost, ignored. The detective in charge, replaced by someone more understanding of the influential families. They treated the case like a jigsaw puzzle, where the pieces had been sanded down so they wouldn't fit together. The forensic experts said it was impossible to identify the cause of death. Convenient, isn't it? If you don't know how she died, you don't know who killed her. Justice in Vitória, back then, didn't wear blankets. It wore a hood. Every city has its ghosts, but Vitória has an entire cemetery of secrets. The strange detail in the Araceli case wasn't what was found, but what vanished. A witness known as Gato, the cat, a security guard who worked near the dump site, claimed to have seen a luxury car white Apollo dropping something off in the dead of night. He saw faces. He knew names. Days later, Gato was dead. The official cause? A sudden, violent illness that smelled suspiciously like poison. The files on his death, lost. The police notes on his statement, burned. In 1973, in Brazil, people didn't just die. They were erased from the narrative to protect the script of the powerful. The city knew, the neighbors knew, but in the shadow of the bay, silence was the only way to stay alive. Theory 1. The Garden of Evil Party. It is said that Araceli was taken to serve as entertainment at a private party fueled by cocaine and alcohol. When the mixture of drugs they gave her caused an overdose, panic took over. The use of acid was not only to hide her identity, but to destroy the chemical evidence of what had been injected into her. It was a luxury disposal. Theory 2. The shield of the dictatorship. Vitória was a strategic port. The families involved had direct connections with the high-ranking military and political figures. Solving the case would mean arresting the children of the pillars of Espírito Santo society. The theory is that the order to suppress the case came from above to avoid a moral scandal that could destabilize the elite support for the regime. Araceli was sacrificed on the altar of political stability. Theory 3. The Espírito Santo Ometa. The city functioned like a mafia. Doctors, judges, and police officers frequented the same clubs as the parents of the suspects. The most cruel detail is that, for years, the suspects continued to frequent the same bars and beaches, crossing paths with Araceli's family, protected by a glass wall made of money and influence. They didn't run away. They just waited for the dust to settle. The final verdict was not written with justice, but with an eraser. In 1980, the main suspects, Dante McCaney, his father, and Paulo Hellel, were brought to trial. They were initially convicted, but money and power moved mountains and erased sentences. Years of appeals, legal maneuvers, and convenient forgetfulness led to a new trial in 1991. The result, acquittal for lack of evidence. The same evidence that had been destroyed and ignored in the previous decade. Today, the Araceli case is legally dead. It has expired. No one paid for the acid. No one paid for the kidnapping. No one paid for the life of an 8-year-old child. The culprits grew old, amassed fortunes, and some have even passed away. taking the secret to the grave. For Brazilian justice, the Araceli case is a dusty file. For Brazil, it is a wound that still bleeds every time the sun sets in Espírito Santo. We've reached the end of the line. Araceli didn't have a proper funeral, but she left a legacy that her abusers could never burn with acid. May 18th is not just a date on the calendar. It's the national day to combat the abuse and sexual exploitation of children and adolescents. She became a symbol, a law, a constant reminder that silence is the predator's best friend. We lost the girl, but we won a cause. It's a shame the price was so high. Do you see those children leaving now? The world has changed since '73. But the princes of the elite still think the streets are their gardens. Don't let that girl's trail disappear into the mists of time. We tell this story so that the name Araceli never again needs to be written in an autopsy report. Thank you for the journey. Go carefully, and never, ever underestimate what lies behind an important surname.